So welcome everyone to our panel discussion today. So there's a little background. A number of months ago, Stacy raised the question of whether or not we should continue to have best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topics, given the wide variety of people in our club and the wide variety of speaking skills, and some beginners and some people that have been Toastmasters for over 20 years. And this created a lot of discussion. We had discussion by email. We had a discussion once in the club for about 15 or 20 minutes, as I recall, in one meeting. So when the project that I need to do for my level 5 in Pathways is to lead a panel discussion, we thought this would be a good panel discussion to have for our club. So we're recording the discussion, and then at some later date, everybody in the club will have their say about what to do. We're going to put together a poll of some sort, and then we'll decide what, if anything, is going to be changed. So the ground rules for this are, we're going to have 4 panelists that I'm going to introduce, 2 people speaking to keep things the same, 2 people speaking to change things in some way. They will get an opportunity to make opening statements of 2 minutes, maximum 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Then the panelists on, each of the 2 panelists on one side will get an opportunity to ask a question to the panelists on the other side, and vice versa. And after those have been done, which those are just 1 minute, then we're going to open it up to the club for a general question and answer session. Although Steve called it a debate, and perhaps technically the format of it is more like a debate, we're hoping that this is not going to be a debate. We want to keep everything civil. We're going to keep everything in time. I will be the moderator. I'll be calling on people. I don't imagine that I'm going to have to bang the gavel, but I will if I have to. And that's how we're going to proceed until the time is up. And then we will continue with table topics on the rest of the meeting. So are there any questions before I call the panelists up? Luis Mora, please come up. Luis has been a member. Some odd years, 27, 25, 28, something.
I was not going to say.
Have a seat, okay. Casey Karpov. Casey has been a member of our club more. I've been a member about 15 years. He's been a member a little longer.
2006.
2006, okay, thank you. And this is our keep everything the same side. And now we're going to have the other side. So Stacy Swan, please come up. And Stacy's been a member of our club since 2004. And Mary Ann Bonner, please come up. And Mary Ann has been a member of the club since 2011. And this is the side speaking for the fact that we should change some things. I'm going to move the podium out of the way. And we have our speaking order. I don't think anybody else needs any further introduction. So with that, Luis, you have the floor.
All right. And before I go into the reasons why I think we should keep what we have, I want, by a show of hands, all the members of our club who at any time won best table topics, best speaker, or best evaluator, raise your hand. That's essentially everybody. And that's one of the main points I wanted to make, is anybody in the club can win any of these contests, because the goal is not winners and losers. The goal is to give a little encouragement, a little incentive, and it's to do the best for your level of speaking for that assignment. So often you may have a beginner winning one of these awards. So that's the first point I wanted to make. So you saw everybody actually won one of these. This is part of our club culture. We are who we are. We've had this ever since we've been a club. We are one of the greatest clubs around, according to Tavis Thompson, a former member. We are probably one of the best clubs, if not the best, and he knew. So if you change the club culture, you change the club. Next, you would change also the annual awards event that we have, which is a highlight of our year. So if you change this, you change that. So you keep changing, and then you don't have the same thing anymore. This is not intended to offend anyone. This is basically just to make it a highlight so that people say, okay, that's how I need to do if I want to win this particular contest next time. Next, if you don't want to offend anybody, maybe we'll ask all the DTMs to leave the club because that's offensive for somebody who just started to see somebody at such a high level. Maybe, but I'm just being facetious there. I wanted to contrast, the women's soccer team for the US is the best in the world. 2 World Cups in a row. They just proved themselves. And so if you want to win the next time, you have to be looking at how they do it, because that's the model that you want to use if you want to win, if you want to be the best, right? So basically, I suggest that we keep it the way it is because it has been working, and that's the kind of club we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Marianne?
Well, those of us that have been in the club for a number of years are used to the system. And, for me, I've won a number of times, and when I don't win, I understand that it doesn't mean I failed. It doesn't mean I necessarily believe that, but I feel like I failed. But I have to go back to when I first joined the club. And I joined this, it wasn't really my idea to join the club, it was my husband's. So I was I wasn't forced to join, but I went because someone else wanted to join. So it hadn't really been my decision. And I had no speaking skills. I was a terrible speaker. And being judged with accomplished speakers felt like it made my job harder. I think I would have quit. I would have left the club if my husband hadn't also been a member. I thought about quitting over and over and over again. I just felt, after each speech, I felt so defeated. It was about maybe 10 speeches before I felt like I had any sense of confidence in standing up in front of the group. Now, maybe my experience isn't everybody else's. Lots of people join the club with more natural ability than I had. But for me, the contest just added another element of difficulty. Now, I will say it's very nice to give a speech and win Best Speaker or win Best Evaluator. But if you don't win, what does that mean? You failed? That's how I feel often, especially when I put a lot of effort into something and I didn't win. And then there's sometimes we only have 2 speakers or 2 evaluators, and if one person wins, what does that mean for the other person? We have a winner and a loser, and I think it's harder when you only have 2 people. So I think we need to think about how the system affects new members. Those of us that have been here for a while have kind of forgotten what that's like, but I think that's something to consider.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, if it isn't broken, why fix it? When you look at those ribbons on that poster right there, how did we get them? We got them from developing each one of you as you go through the different stages of being a Toastmaster, whether you're in table topics, whether you're an evaluator, whether you're a speaker. You learn how to properly make a speech, how to evaluate someone, and how to be a leader in this club. And if you were not recognized for your efforts, you would just think you were a participant and not being special in the club. And we need each one of you to continue to want to improve on yourself. Because without you willing to work on yourselves, you are not working on this club. And the recognition you get from giving a table topics speech, an evaluation, or a regular speech, that is what we need as you continue to progress through the Toastmasters Pathways program. And remember, everything you learn here, you use in everyday life. Think about it. All of us. I've been a Toastmaster here since 2006. My wife says to me when I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, "Are you really going to Toastmasters?" Well, I'll tell you something. It's more than just winning a ribbon. It's also family here. As you know, we all have experienced families, tragedies. Within our own club, we've lost 3 great members, Tevis Thompson, Dan Russell, and Gloria. So all of us together all share in the development of this club and continue to be an excellent leader in the district and then in the conference and in the nation. So I tell you this, why fix it? It's not broken. Thank you.
Toastmasters and our honored guests, when I originally brought up the subject of having contests and making a change in the way we have contests, I did not intend to create a rift within the club. I was just expressing from my point of view, which is a special point of view, things that had bothered me for quite a while about the way we conduct our contests. I am the scheduler for this club, so I know how the scheduling works. And my problem with the contest is, I would not have a problem if they were fair and unbiased. But there's no way they can be fair and unbiased. They cannot be fair because the way the scheduling goes is not random. If it were random, the person you'd be up against in the contest would be random each time. But the way the scheduling works, with some people newer and having to speak more often and other people needing to evaluate more often, you're not going to have a random selection of people that you're competing against. So it cannot be fair in that way. And it also can't be impartial. Once you've known somebody for 1, 3, 5, 10, 12, 20 years, you know them. They might be your favorite, or you might be voting for an underdog, or there might be something creeping in. In addition to being the scheduler for our club, I was also the chief judge for the entire district for a year. And I spent a lot of time learning what it is to judge people and teaching other people how to do that. We don't do that here. Our judging is very, who do you think did the best? Well, that's not a good way to judge somebody, the quality of their work or the effort they put into it, or did they meet their objectives? It's just, what's your favorite? And everybody gets to judge. And in my opinion, maybe crowdsourcing works in a larger crowd, but when it's an intimate group like this, there's no way that it can be objective. So it's not fair, it's not objective. We want to be a club that is safe and supportive place to practice public speaking for all people, especially the newer people who come in who are trying to encourage and support. And therefore, I think that the way we conduct contests now does not support that mission of ours, to be a supportive and safe place for our people to be speaking.
So now we have the portion where each one of the 4 panelists is going to have an opportunity to respond to something that one of the panelists on the other side said. So Luis can respond to something that Marianne or Stacy said, and Stacy and Marianne can respond to something that Luis or Casey said. Each person will have 1 minute to do so. 1 minute.
I'll start.
We'll start with Luis.
Okay. I just want to say, based on what I heard, that, life is a contest. Life is not fair. So sometimes things may not appear fair, but you work through them. I look at Mary Ann when she started, and I'm so proud of who she is now as far as her confidence. And I think perhaps the contest had maybe a little bit to do with it, not all to do with it. Your persistence, the fact that Norm drags you here every day, may be one of the keys. But I think I'm proud to see the improvement that you've had. My kid had games with a lot of different groups over the years, and every kid gets an award. We're not kids, so let's practice something that's appropriate to life out there. Life is a challenge, there's a lot of contests. The more you are in that line of thought, then the better you become. And the goal is to become a better person, a better speaker, a better leader.
Thank you, Louise.
One of the justifications I heard from, I think both at that end were, we've always done it this way, so why change? And I don't really think that's a good argument. You can say that about a lot of things, that we've always done it this way. I also think that we have a good club, partly because we pay attention to what our speakers are doing, and we make sure people progress through the projects, and yes, we reward people for doing well, but I think we do that not just with the contests, but with our evaluations and just the general feedback we give to people. I think the club would still be the same good club without the contests. I think that's just one element of it. Those are my points.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
I completely disagree with what Stacy said is bias. There might be some bias, but I'll tell you what. A lot of us work hard on our speeches. A lot of us learn from our speeches whether or not we have learned something, we picked up something, and the idea of us having the contest is, one, is to give an opportunity to try out something that we've learned, but also be recognized by what you've accomplished. And it's nice to know that when you come to our meeting and you're going to speak, whether you're a tabletopist or an evaluator or a speech, that you have a chance of being recognized and rewarded. The other item I want to bring up has to do with Mary Ann's response about why does it have to stay the same way. Well, we have proven since the beginning of this club for 40 years that this works. How can you deny that or fail to recognize that? So I want to tell you, you have to be careful when you make change, because change can put an end to a good thing. Thank you.
I'm feeling a rift here.
Some doggedness too.
There aren't any dogs around.
Oh, I think there are.
Stacy?
Change can be a good thing. I don't know how many times you've ever had to make a change that was really hard, and then it ended up, you found something, a better alternative. I think there are better alternatives. I don't think we have to stop having contests. I think we can alter the way we have contests and have a better situation for everybody. I hear KC conflating being a highly achieving club with being a competitive club. And I don't see the evidence for that. I think we're a high achieving club because we are focused on quality, we're focused on achieving our educational goals, and we're focused on nurturing and supporting the members of our club. That's what makes us a high quality, high achieving club. Just because life is not fair does not mean that we cannot strive as a club to be fair to the people who call this club home. So I just think that appealing for tradition is a faulty argument, and I would appeal to your conscience, your logic, and your desire to make this club a better club than it is today.
very much, panelists. I'm gonna now open it up to the members. So the ground rules are, club members have a minute. Please stand when you speak to address something to one of the panelists, say who you're addressing it to, and then the panelists will have 30 seconds to respond after you speak. And please raise your hand if you would like to speak. Royce?
Well, is what I'm hearing, this is to everybody, is what I'm hearing is either or today. I'm hearing either we keep it the way it is, or we get rid of it in its entirety. My suggestion is, what about a compromise? I think there's some good value in what we do now. My suggestion is we keep the Best Speaker Award, get rid of Best Table Topics and Evaluator, and replace it with something. Replace it with the Most Improved Speaker. That could apply to new members as well as established members. Somebody who's new could easily win the Most Improved Speaker, or I guess you could apply this to whatever they want, and you could apply to any of their speaking roles. Whoever is improved the most would win that award in whatever role they played. But that way you keep some of what's there, but you change it, I think, to allow new members to not be so intimidated by the structure as it is today.
So who would you like to respond to what you had to say before panel members?
I'm not responding to everybody.
Well, you need to have somebody so they can have 30 seconds to respond.
Louise.
Thank you.
Okay, I agree that, there's sometimes a little bit of change is good. My main message is, let's not kill the program, just let's see, perhaps we can only vote for an award when there's more than two, so that there's not the winner-loser feeling, even though that's not the intent. Perhaps only when there's three or more. I would actually suggest keeping, if we're gonna get rid of any, not the table topics, because for table topics, nobody has an advantage. So there's different thoughts on that, but there's room to modify things, make it better.
Rana?
I do remember my first speech, and I was terrified. I forgot to breathe, and that was what everybody told me. But one of the things about speaking during those early years was I loved to see how well everybody did and what the person who won Best Speaker had done to win that spot. And I wanted to improve and get better to get to that point. So for me, it created a goal I wanted to reach. I know I was scared, I felt I would never get Best Speaker, but eventually I did. I got to that point where I was good enough. So what I would like to say to, say, Marianne, did you ever feel that, oh, I want to get that good? I understand the fear, because I was terrified, and for the full first 2 years that I was speaking, I was terrified. But I knew I wanted to get better. So that's what I'm putting out there. Thank you.
Well, for me, I didn't respond that way. It wasn't a motivating factor for me. It was just another element that added to my stress. And I remember my first speech, Luis is my evaluator, and I was standing behind the lectern, and he said, well, you need to come out, we want to see you. So my second speech, I came out from behind the lectern, and I remember my evaluator's Tran, and she said, well, your hands were shaking so much that it was distracting. So the next speech, I retreated back behind the lectern, and I stayed there for quite a while. So the competition was not motivating. Now, I was probably a worse speaker than most people that joined the club. Maybe I was at one far end of the continuum. But for me, the competition wasn't a motivating factor.
Norm, and then Tran.
This is a question for Stacy. My impression so far is that the change side of the table hasn't yet made a positive argument. Has said that it's demoralizing, it's discouraging, it's difficult, it's not fair, it's not objective. But you haven't said anything about how getting rid of the contests will make us improve as speakers. Could you address that, please?
Yes, and I will thank you for that observation, because in the limited amount of time we have, I wanted to make the point of why we should consider changing, not necessarily eliminating, but changing the structure of our contest. There are other things we can do. Several of them have been brought up. Keep the table topics. Only allow for voting if there are more than 2 people in a contest. I would like to also suggest, instead of having a speaking contest, we could actually have more formal contests, maybe every quarter or every 2 months or something, where people who want to compete can compete. And then we'll also have a formal judging, so that people who are actually making the judgments, which can be everybody in the room, will have some training, so they will know what the criteria are for judging people when they're speaking. People's egos are fragile, and I think we need to be careful about how we treat people's egos when we think it's not important. Oh, they like to win, oh, they don't care, oh, they're hurt by it. I think it's important to consider the people who are up here who you might be destroying, or by the way you're voting against them constantly, even though they might be, like Marianne, came with some amazing writing skills, amazing thought process. I mean, she came out of the box just having beautiful speeches, but she didn't have the other things that go with being a speaker. She was a writer. So we needed to encourage that and help her along little by little. And I don't think that the contest did help her. I don't think they helped me they never helped me really. I just sort of like, oh, okay, whatever. But I think that we need to consider that there are more than just competitors versus non-competitors in the room, that we just need to find a way to make it rewarding for everybody. I overspoke my time.
Tran, and then Steve.
So actually, I really relate on both sides. I was English is my second language. I barely can speak, even now I'm to make a grammar. But I think to keep that, who's the best speaker, give me motivation, encourage me to do better. I'm afraid if we eliminate it, I would be also like, oh, it's just a speech. I may even go past the time. I don't really put my best to deliver the topic or something that I want. So I think we're dealing with 2 different people. Some people really more, yes, gentle. So my suggestion, again, is I know it's very hard to schedule. So maybe even more mindful when you schedule, to make sure only the 3 that kind of same level, if you can. But if not the case, then the evaluator has to be very gentle. I mean, if it's a new person, the evaluator has to be the one very skillful to bring the best out of them. Even he's lost, but he said, oh, my evaluator, and more important, the mentor, really come and say, Tran, you do a wonderful job, you still keep up with your good work. That's way it's nurture. This club, with all of that, is not just only, I think it's a heart, and we do have a heart here. So I can relate both sides. So none of them I can get it.
Steve?
So, I had a little bit different reaction than Marianne. When I came and visited the club, I got to do table topics at my first meeting. And at least for me, you guys voted, I don't know if it was charity, but I won best table topics. And I had competed in high school, and it was the first time I had spoken really since college in terms of outside of work. And for me, it was a motivation factor. Toastmasters does a lot of rewards, not to create competition, but to encourage people to do better clubs. For example, Stacy gave a speech the other day, and when she pointed out that our club has won President's Distinguished 37 of its 40 years, and that's incredible. But what it does is, it encourages us to do everything that makes the club better, to get our officers trained so that they perform their roles better, to get new members, because people constantly leave the area, change jobs, and can't be members. And so to me, it's just a motivating factor. Roy said get rid of 2 awards. I think that's a mistake. What I would do is add an award, so when people finish their first icebreaker, one of the clubs in my area last year always has a first icebreaker award. I think that'd be a great thing. It encourages people and congratulates them for doing a good job. And I would ask Mary Ann to comment, because I know you felt it was a demotivating factor. What do you think of that?
Adding,
For example, adding an award as opposed to getting rid of it.
that's a possibility. I think, like Stacy said, we don't have to get rid of the current system. We just might want to consider changing it, or, adding something would be a change.
Can I make one other comment? I know my time's up, and this goes to Stacy. I think, I judged coach high school and speech and debate, and we had to recruit parents to have enough judges, and they used to give a 10-minute presentation before that. I also coached mock trial, and we had to recruit lawyers to judge, and they gave a 10-minute presentation on judging. I think a very great speech would be for you to give a 10-minute speech on judging the weekly contest, because I think you're right that people may be voting for who they thought was the best speech, but it's really how much the person fulfilled their task assigned by either the manual or the pathway. And I think it'd be a great opportunity if you could give a speech on judging the 3 contests. Have you ever thought about that?
I would be happy to do that, but you have to consider that the audience of people judging in a weekly contest might include guests, might include brand new members, might include people who really don't have a foundation in what a good evaluation even is, or how to evaluate a speech. So they end up going back to, which one did I like? Which one made me laugh? Which one was the last one? If it was 7 table topics, which one do I remember? Oh yeah, it was the last one. I think if you look at the tally of who wins these contests, it's often those who were the funniest, or those who, are the last to speak, or things like that. And then you get to be the person who's the table topics master who counts all the votes. And you could see sometimes it's a landslide, sometimes it's like there's 4 people who have 2 votes, one person has 3 and they win. Does that mean you're a better person if you won today? No. But you might feel like a better person, or you might feel like a worse person because you lost. But you're not a worse person. You might have been a better person. So why do we get so much joy out of winning an unfair contest? I just don't understand what the big deal is about the competition. That's my comment.
So I know that the guests want, Kristen, I want to give members of our club the opportunity to talk today. We only have about 3 more minutes. So Kristen?
But I also think we should let the guests talk.
Pardon?
I think we should let the guests talk.
All right.
Yeah.
Then
You can go first. Yeah.
she's the Toastmaster?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay.
go for it.
I'm going to address my question to Casey because others have received a question, although it's a general one. And I obviously, as a guest and not a member of Toastmasters, don't speak from experience in terms of the contest, but it's very striking to me to see the gender difference in the opinions. And there's a lot of resonance with cultural occurrences and keeping things the same and wanting things to be different. And so my question is, if you think that growing up as a male and being rewarded for competition versus the more universally understood feminine values, obviously there are a lot of variations in that, but if you think any of these gender acculturation issues pertain in your positions, respectively.
Good question.
Well, first off, I consider these 2 lovely ladies, I admire them tremendously and I respect them. So I took the part of keeping things the same, but I could also change chairs very easily. So I just let you know that. However, When I was growing up playing baseball, and I started playing baseball in Calistoga in 1958, there was only one winner that got trophies. The rest of the teams did not get trophies. They did not get participation ribbons. They did not get anything. And what did that do? It made us all try harder to be a better team, to learn our positions better, and to help us achieve, to win that trophy. And it's a goal. And that's the whole thing. When you join Toastmasters, it's the goal. So whether you go win simply a table topics or evaluator or best speaker, it's your goal to achieve that. And then you get into the district and the conference competitions, it's your goal to win that. And it's your goal in your hobby to continue yourself in your growth to get better at what you're doing. And that's how I look at that. But it has nothing to do with the genders, of course.
Do we want to give, okay, go ahead.
This is my first Toastmaster, so what do I know? But responding to the wonderful gentleman in the blue, you said that change can put an end to a good thing. But the only thing constant in life is change. And I mean, I'm not good at getting up early on a Friday morning, getting up at 6 a.m. But what I had to do is cause a rift in my daily routine and get my tushy out of bed and take myself over here. Now, bringing up the quote again, change can put an end to a good thing. But what change can do, after putting an end to a good thing, is create a great thing, an even better thing. And that's about all I have right now.
Each panelist, 30 seconds to have a closing remark beginning with Louise. Go.
Excuse me, 30 seconds, you said?
30 seconds, go.
We need you in our club. You already have excellent skills. I must say that most of our club members are actually women. And so I think over time, the system that Toastmaster has in place seems to work. I understand that, you know, the rift and the issues as far as keeping things great, we're not getting political here, but I'm just saying that if something is working, our club is working, let's not just throw away one of the critical elements just because we want to change.
One thing about our club is respect for each other. So all of us have different opinions about how our club works, what will work, what won't work. And the thing is about our club is each one of us is very open to listen to the other side. Now here was a kind of debate, but in reality, when we really come down to setting up business, we are very open-minded and we want to support each other in whatever they feel. And that's how I feel today.
Great.
I too understand there are multiple points of view. I understand why some people, like my husband, are very competitive and find the contests motivating and like to win and do not like to lose. I just think that this particular venue is not the appropriate place for us to be doing it, especially since they cannot be fair and objective. If it were fair and objective, I would probably have a different opinion about it. I think we can continue to have contests, but just change them to be better for everyone involved.
I thought the idea of a gender component to all this was interesting. It made me think a little bit that I remember growing up as a child, I was never rewarded for being competitive, and my husband is very competitive. He competes with himself mostly, but it's interesting the difference between us, and that gender probably has something to do with that. Like Stacy, I understand we all have different viewpoints, and I'm fine with whatever the club decides, whether we decide to keep the same system or go with something else, but I think it's worth looking at what we're doing and not just sticking with something because this is the way we've always done it, because that's not always the case.
I would like to thank all of our panelists for doing an excellent job and for making great points. I'd like to thank everybody in the room, because everybody said something pretty much, and the comments were really good. I'm hoping that this panel did not cause a rift. I'm glad that we have doggedness in our expressing of our opinions, and I would thank everybody in the club for giving me the opportunity to be the panel moderator and fulfill one of the